Say it with boldness. Say it with a southern accent. Tate Reeves likes slavery. What a great American. Do you not know who that is? That is the governor of Mississippi. The governor of Mississippi has declared that April is Confederate month. Confederate month. In memory of that great Confederacy of the South. Yes, those old plantation owning, greenback spending, slave holders, the white supremacists who didn't want slavery to stop, those guys. He has declared that April is Confederacy month. No, he's not alone. He's not alone. I think Alabama and a few other states have jumped on that particular bandwagon. But let's talk about Tate today, shall we? Tate! You good old boy, you good old slaver. You know, it's interesting that Americans allow individuals like Tate Reeves to actually sit in office and to still pretend that their nation is a nation. What is the word? A nation for all people, where all men are created equal. In the 21st century, there's a white man in office in America. I mean, he looks like Bill Gates. He has a heck of a man piece. Got a pretty good picture of him. Heck of a man piece. I know that's a headpiece there, too. But he's a little younger than me. Born in 1974. You don't look very good for your age, Tate. Not at all. But he is the governor of Mississippi, and he is sitting there declaring that Confederacy, the Confederate era is a great time in America. Yes, he is. Let's make America great again. A great slave nation. I find it so incredulous of how people sit on their hands. In Canada right now, to our American friends who watch this, the gas prices are approximately $8 a gallon. But that's what we're paying for gas right now. But $8 a gallon, taxed up the wazoo. I believe if this was the scenario in America, people would be burning gas stations down. They'd be stealing gas. There'd be a civil war. Not in Canada. We're nice over here. We just keep paying and paying and paying and paying and paying. Things where in America you guys would stand up for. You wouldn't allow it. But you know what you guys allow over and over and over again? Anti-black racism. You got no issue with that. That's as American as apple pie, baby. Anti-black racism. And you know who allows it? All of you. Every doggone one of you. That's correct. Black and white alike just shake their head and say, yeah, that's how they are down there. Yeah, that's just the South. Yeah, that's just Mississippi. You know, Mississippi. And it's allowed. It's permitted. The federal government never gets involved. Nothing happens. And it blows my mind. Miss Ann, how are you? This is Del K. Brereton, and this is the Shiloh Institute, the real spiel. I just like to tell it like it is. I came on here today to let you guys know that Tate Reeves loves slavery. Yeah. That should be a t-shirt. Tate loves slavery. Tate Reeves loves slavery. That'd make a heck of a banner, you know? They should be rocking that in every high school in Mississippi. Tate Reeves loves slavery. Every HBCU in the South. Tate Reeves, good old governor of Mississippi, he loves slavery. He's a good old-fashioned slaver. You know, a young lady was talking to me today and said to me, hey, and Canada was also voted as the safest nation in the world to live in. And she said, this is such an amazing nation. Del, don't you think this Canada is just such a great nation? And I said, it depends who you're talking to. It really depends who you're talking to. I said, you know, 1% corporate Canada is black men are in 1% of corporate Canada, and 50% of that 1% are homosexuals. Yeah. Did you know that? She goes, well, I don't know. It's such a multicultural country. I mean, I think I'm a minority now. This is a white lady, into her 70s, retired woman. Called her a young lady because I'm polite. And I said, well, let me look something up for you. And I went online and I looked it up, and see, out of 33 million Canadians, 25 million are white. You're not a minority. You're 70% of the population. You're not a minority. And from the perspective that the country is a British colony, that you are descendant of those people, of course it's fantastic for you. It's made for you. It's made for you. If you took my shoes and tried them on your feet, even if they were brand new, it could be $10,000 shoes, they're not made for you. They'd feel uncomfortable. You wouldn't be able to operate effectively, functionally in my shoes because they're not made for you. And so Canada can be the safest nation in the world. Canada can be this wonderful, we're not a melting pot like America. We are a mosaic. You know that? That's what they call us. They call us a mosaic because a melting pot, once you melt everything in, it all becomes the same. But Canada, you come and you maintain the culture you came from, and so you are a mosaic. So we are a wonderful example of a mosaic culture. However, for certain people, it ain't do nothing for us, baby. Ain't do nothing for us. And black folks down in Mississippi, first of all, I have a good friend, actually. He's a bishop, an Orthodox bishop in the South, Bishop Treg. And I say, Treg, how the heck are you living in Mississippi, bro? I don't know how black folks are even in Mississippi. I don't even know. I don't know. I mean, I can understand Georgia. I can understand Texas. Pushing it a little bit with Alabama, even North Carolina, but Mississippi, I don't know how y'all hang out in Mississippi and just be like, we're here. And I understand that there must be long family lines in both directions going all the way back to slavery in Mississippi. I realize that. But there comes a time you need to leave the plantation behind. And Mississippi, according to Tate Reeves, is still a gigantic plantation. It's a plantation. And if it's not a plantation, it wants to be. It desperately wants to be a plantation again. I don't understand that there's no uproar for things like this. This has been happening apparently since, I believe, 1994. It's 30 years old, where this was reinitiated, that April was going to be Confederate month. And I don't know how it's possible that things like this can still exist. But let me put on the other narrative for a moment, okay? Greetings to everybody. He's a gay private instigator. Is he? Interesting. I don't know. Tate Reeves is? That's interesting. But I'm gonna put on the other argument for a minute. If I was a white person in America, if I was a white person, period, in the world right now, it's really difficult to be able to state your views underneath the auspices of such liberal awareness of xenophobia. You've got to call people the right things these days. And I can imagine how difficult that was for whites. When black folks start, they were niggers at one time, then y'all called us Negroes, then they wanted to be called black. Y'all weren't sure if you were called black, and so you started to call us colored. And then we went from colored to back to black. And then, of course, Jesse told us that we were African Americans. Thank you, Jesse. And so we got moving scale of what you call the blacks. You know, must be hard for y'all to figure it out. And then it didn't stop with the blacks. You had to figure out how to call everybody something. You couldn't call Asians because they just weren't all Asians. You know, you couldn't call all Latinos Mexican because they weren't all Mexicans. You know, everybody wasn't Chinese. And then you don't know whether or not an actual Indian is an Arab, and an actual individual who is actually from the Middle East is not an Arab. So you just call everybody Arab or Hajis. You know, you're very good. You call the Vietnamese gooks. You call the Irish kikes. You call the Italians wops. You start to even discriminate amongst yourselves. It's very confusing when you're an Anglo-Saxon. Hey. But why are you gay? I don't understand that. I'm straight as an alley cat under fire. But I don't know. Maybe they're talking. Maybe you guys are talking to each other. But it must be difficult. It must be difficult for the whites. And if I was a white person, I'd be quite. You know, I would wonder what I can say too. Then you move on to you know, these gentlemen here who are having a conversation about which one of them is gay, the LGBTQ community, and figuring out what to call. Are you a they? Are you a them? You know, are you a him or a her? Are you transitioning into something else? You know, it's these things are so difficult. So yes, I understand that you are stuck in this new liberal world where everything has a proper label. You can't say retarded anymore. You've got to give it a proper name. You got to give these particular individuals a proper name. You can't call midgets or little people, all kinds of stuff. You know, y'all used to be real messy. Y'all just said it like it was, but now you can't, unless you're Donald Trump or Tate Reeves. Or jokers who come on here and saying craziness. You can say anything you want on here. Go ahead. These words don't bother nobody. You can say anything you want. We've got moderators to throw you away if you need to throw you off. But it must be hard. And this is the hardest thing, I think, for white folks. And I'm not even going to use America. Let's use Canada. 70 odd percent of y'all are the majority. You must feel like you're losing your colony. You must feel like that. You know, you came out here and you killed a whole bunch of people, you massacred people, and you set up names of institutions, you changed the names of rivers and lakes and called it your own thing, put up your flag, created a national anthem, and said, this is ours now. And now it must feel like it's just all slipping through your fingers. And I guess that's what does it. That's what does it. Lincoln took away your ability to own other people, and it just left a hole in you somewhere where you just feel that every now and then, if the blacks can have February, why can't you, white supremacists, have April? Isn't it fair? That's what it seems to be. You gave us a break. You said, you guys got the shortest month. We'll give you a break in March, and we'll come on in here in April and declare it Confederate month. And that's what it seems to be. It just seems to be that if you're allowed to have, in Brereton, if you can have Black History Month, why can't I have White History Month? Because every month is your month, I guess. But at the end of the day, me personally, does it bother me? Yes, it bothers me. It bothers me because there's too many occasions where the African has allowed the in-your-face disrespect to continue. That's what it is. It's ridiculous. And I hope that they're burning down any Confederate flag. They rip it down and torch it. That's what I hope they do. I hope they kick over any monument that's stuck up for them. That's right. It's called civil disobedience. That's right. I hope they kick those things over. And then I hope they go through the legal system to make sure that these hate crime holidays are part of the federal government's capacity to hold elected officials accountable when they try to institute these days. That's right. So Tate Reeves, should be going to jail, because what he's actually done is he's instituted hate legislation hate memorabilia to say that slavery, that losing, that being a traitor is American. And they should hold him accountable. You don't understand a racism? I can explain a racism very easy for you. Racism, the ism, the ideology of race, is the concept that human beings are actually not one race. That's racism. We are only one race. It's called the human race. The concept of racism is that men are made of different blood somehow. And it gets to the ridiculous. You see what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia. Those are the same people. Those are basically the same people fighting over that little plot of land, right? You see what happens. You see what happens in Vietnam. You see what happens all over the place. With the British were making the Irish. You guys were making fun of the Irish. That's why all Jamaicans sound like Irish people. You made your own white people so lowly. You made Irish whites so lowly. Irish people are walking around saying, we were the first Negroes. They don't use that word. Yeah. So you guys did a wonderful job of that. You see, it's the problem. The problem is, I can explain it to you very clearly. Racism didn't show up really until the 19th century. Not really. It didn't really show up. You had to justify your own barbarism. You had to find a way to make it okay to keep people enslaved, to keep a civilization enslaved. And you allowed yourself to pretend like you were the master race. You created Hitler. You created Auschwitz. You created all those ideas. Those ideas came from you, right? You abandoned the history books. You did. You have to do these things. In order for racism to exist, you have to abandon history books. You have to. You have more places like Timbuktu and their libraries. You have to ignore West Africa. You have to ignore, I want to call it by its African name, but you won't understand, Alexandria and the libraries of Egypt and the understanding of actual civilization and science. You have to ignore Pythagoras' theorem. You have to ignore the ziggurats and the pyramids. You have to ignore these things. You have to ignore that Islam took over the world for 30 years. You have to ignore that Christianity was a black religion and that yes it was, and that Judaism was a black religion. And you have to ignore these things. You have to ignore that the very first white world power was Greece, and before that you were run by black people. The world was run by black people. You have to ignore these things. And you have to recondition history and, create wonderful movies where Moses is Charlton Heston and Cleopatra is Elizabeth Taylor. You have to do these things. You have to do these things where you're creating Tarzan, the white man, who was the ape man. Tarzan the ape man. He's a white man swinging around, stronger than a gorilla. You got to do all these things to create and perpetuate lies. You have to create white Jews and say that they've always been Jewish. You have to create these things. These are things created by white supremacy. Misinformation. That's what racism is. Creating lies so that you can now cover your guilt with fake academia. That's all it is. And I become offensive because I'm telling you the truth. I become, oh, why don't you just get over it? Why don't you get over it? Why don't you stop allowing white supremacy, which is the most fictional thing in the world, because white people haven't been supreme for very, very long, and they're not supreme in very, very many things. You're expert at killing each other, though. You're fantastic. That's actually what you bring to the table, from the Vikings to Rome to Alexander the Great. You're fantastic at blowing each other up. Your penchant for destruction is phenomenal. And it's incredible what you will allow and who you will allow to govern you. You just want a revisitation of when you were in charge. So funny. When you really enter the microcosm of it, it's quite interesting. You look at things like the Ultimate Fighting Challenge, Ultimate Fighting, the UFC. For decades, since the Brown Bomber, all right? Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, Ken Norton, Fraser, Hagler, Leonard, Tommy Hearns, the list goes on. And then when it wasn't black men knocking people out, it was a Latino guy knocking people out. And they've been looking for, look at it, the great white hope for a long time. And you got tired of it. And you said, you know what, screw this. We're just gonna start something else. And you started the UFC. And for the first, 20 years with UFC, it was white champions. And it was great, and it grew. And Dana White knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that good old boys wanted to see white guys win again. You want to see it. And you created white heroes, and all these things were created on the back of the crouching tiger of white supremacy that is sitting there in the backs of so many people's mind. And it's okay that when you watch something, you want somebody that looks like you to win. It's okay. That's all right. That's human nature. But when you have to stack the deck against it, when you have to prop it up to make it real, when you have to invent holidays to remember horrible moments of your own history and repaint them as wonderful moments of nostalgia, you're sick. You're sick. Something's wrong with you. But don't be worried. We're right along with you because we've allowed it. We've sat back there and we've kept shucking and jiving, and we kept doing the Watusi, and we kept doing the WAP, and we kept rapping against each other and keep under-educating ourselves and keep overstimulating the sexuality of our young girls and our young boys. We keep devaluating ourselves. We're the only community where we devalue ourselves. Black women are the only women that devalue their men, that tell everything negative about their men, that stand on that their men are the worst out there. Black women are the only women of any culture, of any ethnicity that do it. No other community does it. No other community does it. And some would say, well, it's because of what you've done to them, and that could be very fair. That could be very fair. But we're the only community that has highlighted and made popular stripper culture, prostitute culture. We have done that. And yes, you poor little white girls have jumped on that too, and now you want to be bad bitches too. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. You want to be bad bees too. And you join that group. And because we create culture, we always have. We've always created culture. We've always created thought. We've always created fads. We've always created what's fun. Yes, and so when we create the greatness, black people, you've got to take responsibilities. When you create the good, sometimes you create the bad too. And we've created a lot of that stuff. We've made the music. I remember I grew up. Remember when I could not hear a hip hop song, a funk, we used to call it funk song, a black song. I couldn't hear it in an elevator. I couldn't hear it in the mall. Now we're everywhere. I remember when you had to worry about the cuss words. Now they don't care. They don't even hear the cuss words. You can play rap in any school auditorium, in any school gathering. Rap music is no problem with all the cuss words. Nigger, 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 nigger. You can just play it. Because we created the culture. That's right. To exist. We have allowed them to exist. And most of you are afraid to talk now too. Have you noticed that? Especially our black men. Black men are afraid to speak out. Oh, I don't want to. I'm like, come on the show, man. Say what I like your idea. No, I'm not that guy though. I don't want to say anything. You don't want to say anything. Nah, I don't want to say anything, bro. You go and do that. We don't want to speak out. And that's why we have so many dummies as our leaders. Throw me out there if you want to. Because when intelligent people decide to say nothing, fools become your leaders. And so we've had so many of us that are afraid to just speak. You want to assimilate, you want to fit in, right? The number one assimilation tool of black people in the last 100 years is Christianity. You've used it to assimilate. It was never an assimilation. It was never an assimilation religion. You know that? Never. Christianity is not for assimilation. Be ye separate. What does it mean to be anointed? The word anointed means set apart. But you have utilized Christianity to assimilate, because the white man said he was a Christian and he wasn't. He wasn't a Christian at all. But the early white man wasn't a Christian at all. The slaver, he's not a Christian. He wasn't a Christian. Couldn't have been a Christian. If he was a Christian, he would have adopted the year of Jubilee and he would have let you go after 50 years. He wasn't a Christian. He was a manipulator. He didn't even know what Christianity was himself. But we have utilized modern day Christianity to assimilate. That's right. Every black person who's sitting under a white pastor, lift your hand. In Canada, it's very prevalent. In the States, not so much. But all over this place, all over here, where I'm at right now, Pentecostals are pastored by white people. They go into poor neighborhoods. They build fantastic churches. This is the formula. You go into a poor neighborhood, you build a fantastic building, and call it Pentecostal, and you put black people to run it, but you're the head. They're the ushers, they're the deacons, they're the grunts, but you're the head. That's right. And you tell it's their church, this is yours. Absolutely. Now, some of us have risen up and decided that we want to pastor ourselves. They did in the Caribbean, of course. In America, of course. Canada has happened. It's happened to that now too. But you don't have the money. You don't have the organizational structure. The Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, the POACs, Pentecostal Assemblies of Canada, they are from the Assemblies of God in America. I don't think they have one black pastor. It's the biggest Pentecostal organization in Canada. Don't have one black pastor who leads a church. You got a couple of them who are assistants. Very difficult. It's very difficult when the many stay silent. And it's not even about rocking the boat. You're not going to jail. You just don't want any trouble, because you've been good conditioned Negroes. You've been conditioned to just be quiet, to sit down, to take it easy, to let God do it. Just let God do it. Just give and let God. Yeah, okay. God will sit there and watch you be a dummy. He will. Because there's never a time in any movement of God that you didn't have to show up. He said many times, you don't got to fight. The battle is the Lord's. The battle is not yours. But you still have to show up. You still have to show up. You still have to get up there and either walk around Jericho. You still had to scream. You still had to send instruments and sing praises. You still had to show up. We don't show up anymore. We don't speak out anymore. We don't shout you down anymore. And therefore, Tate Reeves and those that come after him will always continually re-victimize you. And that's what they say about black people now. Oh, you're always victims. You're not victims. Slavery doesn't exist. Racism doesn't exist. You're just creating a narrative because you want handouts. That's what they're telling you. I hear it so many times. But then I walk through schools and I see administrator after administrator after administrator in the greater Toronto area, Thornhills and the white areas. There's no black administrators there. Zero. There's no black teachers in my school. None. There's 3 black educational support workers, no black teachers. It's Chinese teachers, Indian teachers, no black teachers. Go out to the black and Indian area, all those, the principal's black, everybody's black in the black area. Put them over there. So you're segregating them. You put them where you need them. So what are you saying? You're saying that black people black administrators can't administer anywhere where there's not a large black or so-called colored population. Okay? And you keep saying the same old thing to the same old people, and you keep leaving yourself in the same old mentality. And Tate wins. Tate wins. It's about time you stop letting him win. This is Del K. Brereton. This is The Real Spiel. God bless you.